Hey guys, my name is Matt Goldsman from youtube.com/dsdude1107 and GamersCast, and I'm here today to present my theory on how the Legend of Zelda Timeline is structured. Now, I personally haven't found any exact copies of my version of the timeline as of yet, so don't accuse me of copying anyone. I made this based solely off of research I've done and stuff I've done. I've played every game in the series multiple times, and the timeline, my version of it, was comprised by three sources. Either by in-game content, by game manuals or game box descriptions, or from direct quotes from either Mr. Shigeru Miyamoto or Mr. Aonuma. So, that being said, if you don't agree with my theories, comment with your own below. Commenting about it, I really want to know what you guys think about this, but in my opinion, I'm pretty sure I have a relatively well done version of the Legend of Zelda Timeline here. I haven't really found any way to break it. So this is it. I've been working on this for a while. I've been a Zelda fan pretty much all my life, and so I've been studying the timeline for a while. I've played it, like I said, I've played every game multiple times. I'll let you know how many per game. But anyway, Zelda Timeline. Where do you start? Let's start from the beginning, because this is probably one of the most confusing game franchise timelines ever. And I mean ever. So, where do you start? You have to start from the beginning. Personally, first, I'm going to start with Minish Cap. I believe this, as of now, is the first game in the franchise, for a couple of reasons. First off, I'm just going to go from in-game stuff here. First off, the stained glass windows in the very opening sequence of the game features a hero that's referred to as the hero of men. Not the hero of time, the hero of the winds, or anyone else. Not to mention, the hero in the stained glass doesn't have a hat. And at the end of this game is apparently when Link finally gets his hat that becomes traditional garb for heroes and descendants to wear from then on out. So, basically what I'm saying is Minish Cap has to come first because everyone else has a hat. I've read other theories online saying that this game would come after Spirit Tracks, placing it on the polar opposite end of the timeline. However, I disagree because there was no Hero of Men directly prior to this whole instance, and it really wouldn't make too much sense, because there really isn't too much basis on that argument, because the whole argument, a lot of people base it on the art style of the artwork being based on cel-shaded Link, so that doesn't really feel too concrete for me to say. But Link doesn't have a hat, and in every game that was currently released, Link has a hat. So what I'm saying is Minish Cap comes first as of now, but prior to that, there is room for another game in which we will follow a hero called the Hero of Men. When that game comes out, Link won't have a hat. That hero wielded the Picori sword, which in Minish Cap became known as the Four Sword, which leads us into the next game, which is The Legend of Zelda Four Swords, originally released for the Game Boy Advance. However, there is potentially room for a game in between. Reason I say this is, in Four Swords, the opening sequence mentions that Link once wielded the blade and split into four. However, this could be a reference to the endgame sequence of Minish Cap, in which case Link created shadow copies of himself to defeat Vaati. Also, in Four Swords Adventures, the beginning, it cites that Link split 2 times prior to that game, which means that could either be referencing both Four Swords and Minish Cap, or it could be just referencing Four Swords and there's a game in between Four Swords and Minish Cap. Depending on your interpretation of that last boss fight of Minish Cap, it's all up to basically your interpretation of it. So there could be potentially room to make the Four Swords trilogy a quadrilogy, or whatever you want to call it. In Four Swords Adventure, that's the last time we have yet to hear of the Four Sword, so that's going to be the last game of the Four Sword saga right there. However, back in 1998, Shigeru Miyamoto said that Ocarina of Time was the first game in the series. Keep in mind that all these games that I placed before it were released after Ocarina of Time, and therefore still staying true to his statement made back then. But it also means that Ocarina of Time is relatively early on in the timeline. And a recently released statement also revealed that The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword would tell the origin story of the Master Sword, which is featured in Ocarina of Time. Therefore, Skyward Sword predates Ocarina of Time, but comes after Four Swords Adventures. Therefore, after Four Swords Adventures comes Skyward Sword. Followed by that is Ocarina of Time. Now, this is where the timeline starts to get sticky. In the game end sequence of Ocarina of Time, yes, I just switched the pronunciation on you, because interchangeable, I really don't care. In the in-game sequence of Ocarina of Time, there's essentially two worlds, and the timeline splits. This is where a lot of people get confused, and there's a lot of people who have been studying the timeline called linearists who don't believe the timeline splits, despite the fact that Shigeru Miyamoto actually said the timeline splits. So I don't get these people. But anyway, nonetheless, timeline, we're going to call these Timeline A and Timeline B. Timeline A is the world that Link went back to relive his childhood. So that there's this timeline here. Then Timeline B is the world that Link left behind. So in Timeline A, what immediately happens following Ocarina of Time is that Link goes back to Hyrule Courtyard and tells Zelda of everything that happened in Ocarina of Time. From there, he immediately leaves to go find Navi in the woods, and thus is a direct sequel is Majora's Mask. But that's in Timeline A. That's the more complicated one. So we're going to go to Timeline B first and go to the world Link left behind. Basically what happened is there was no... Ganon basically broke the seal and broke free. However, when he broke free, Link was on Timeline A at the time. So there was no one to stop him. So hundreds of years go by, the gods do the only thing they think is practical and flood Hyrule. Thus, transitioning into The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. After Wind Waker, it's been confirmed that Phantom Hourglass is a direct sequel to Wind Waker. So, therefore, they're Wind Waker, then Phantom Hourglass. However, in Wind Waker, we see a character called Nico. Nico is really young pirate in Wind Waker. He's also around in Phantom Hourglass, and continues to stay around in Spirit Tracks. During Spirit Tracks, he makes various references saying that when you take up your garb, that you were reminded of an old friend from a long time ago in his childhood. Therefore, Nico is approximately 100 years old in Spirit Tracks, and the only place to put it is directly after Phantom Hourglass. Not to mention in Phantom Hourglass we met a character named Linebeck, and in Spirit Tracks is a character named Linebeck III, which would appropriately place Spirit Tracks in the right place too, as there is enough time for 2 offspring to be born. Ew. Anyways, that's all we know about Timeline B right now. So there's really a lot of room for more stuff to happen after Spirit Tracks in Timeline B. As for before it, there really isn't room because there's no time gap in between Wind Waker and Phantom Hourglass, and there's a minimal time gap in between Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks. However, because between Ocarina of Time and Wind Waker, there is no link to exist, no game can go in between there as well, so the only place for a game to fit in Timeline B is after Spirit Tracks. Now let's get to the dreaded Timeline A. I hate this timeline. As I said, in Ocarina of Time, Zelda sent Link back to relive his childhood that he missed out on while he was sealed in the Chamber of Sages for 7 years. Then he goes and immediately looks for Navi. Don't know why, he does. Look in the woods in Majora's Mask, and then after Majora's Mask, I say Twilight Princess comes next. Reason I say Twilight Princess comes back is because in Timeline A, when Link went back to warn Zelda about everything Ganon did, they sealed Ganon in the Twilight Realm. He broke out of the Twilight Realm, thus Twilight Princess comes next. Now this is where it really gets sticky. After that, I'm going to say A Link to the Past comes next. Well, in an interview Shigeru Miyamoto did way back when, he said that A Link to the Past predated the original game, and that it also occurs after Ocarina of Time. Also, on the back of the game's packaging, it even said that it comes before the original game. Therefore, A Link to the Past's only good spot is here. But that doesn't mean that the original game necessarily comes next. No, the next things that come up is The Legend of Zelda Oracle of Ages and The Legend of Zelda Oracle of Seasons. Now, the thing with these two games is, they're the hardest games to place in the timeline because there's two of them. It's basically like almost kind of like trying to predate Pokemon Red before Pokemon Blue. You don't do it. But I found a way to do it nonetheless. Because if you play it as if it were a linked game, if you play it in a linked game mode, it does an alternate storyline, in which case at the end of the game, Link goes and sets sail on a boat. And that same boat is seen in the beginning of Link's Awakening. Therefore, you can consider the Oracle games one game, and then Link's Awakening comes next. Another popular theory is that Legend of Zelda Oracle of Ages and Seasons are on equal spots of both timelines, and that because the storylines run parallel to each other. That's a popular theory. However, because of the gap in Timeline B, we need another game in between Spirit Tracks and one of the Oracle games in order for that to happen. But you could consider a Link game of a merging of the two timelines at the same time, which is like an idea I just recently came up with, but I wasn't too sure with, because if you think about it, Link game, so that could be conjoining the two timelines again, and basically it'd be like timeline, branch out, together, down. I'm not really sure how I feel about that yet. I kind of want to see how Timeline B progresses before I make that assumption, but just know that it is a possibility because there are two games and they do run parallel to each other in story, therefore they could run on the equal parts of both timelines. But for now, I'm just going to leave all the games that succeed, or the Oracle games, on Timeline A for the purpose of this video. So, basically, consider both games one game. The Oracle games come after A Link to the Past and goes directly into Link's Awakening. After that, there's only two games left. The original Legend of Zelda and Zelda 2, which was confirmed to be a direct sequel of the original Zelda, as the stories tie hand in hand. And there you go, that is the Legend of Zelda Timeline. To recap, we're going to start off. Before Minish Cap, there's going to be a game that features the Hero of Men, or a whole series of games that features the Hero of Men. But that game didn't come out yet, but it will come. After that comes Minish Cap, 4 Swords for the Game Boy Advance, 4 Swords Adventures for the GameCube, Skyward Sword for the Wii, Ocarina of Time for the N64, then the timeline splits. In Timeline B, we have Wind Waker for the GameCube, Phantom Hourglass, and then Spirit Tracks, both for the DS. On Timeline A, we have the direct sequel to Ocarina of Time, which is Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess, A Link to the Past, The Legend of Zelda Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons. Like I said, that can change based on what I said. And then after that comes Link's Awakening, the original Legend of Zelda, followed by Zelda 2. Well, guys, that is my theory of the Legend of Zelda Timeline. Let me know what you think of my theories. I'm pretty sure I haven't really found any holes to my argument so far. But then again, I haven't really published my argument yet. That's where you guys come in. If you found a hole in it, let me know, and I will amend it. However, I really don't see any way I could put a hole on this, and I sincerely think I got it. Yay! So yeah, that's basically that. And yeah, that's it for me. I'm Matt Goldsman. Check me out. Check out more content from me at youtube.com/dsdude1107. And yeah, that's basically it. Until next time, I'm Matt Goldsman from GamersCast, and I'll catch you next time.